Hi everyone, and welcome back. Now in this video I'm going to tell you more interesting things about our sleep. Now let's start with another sneaky one, which is the light from any source lighting our world after the sun has set. Remember, we've evolved as humans for millions of years with only the light from the sun, which disappeared after sunset. Now today the problem for us with modern lighting coming from any modern technology which gives out blue light waves which makes it look light, such as most residential and retail lighting, computers, iPhones, iPads, etc., is that our ancient brain recognizes it as it's the dawn, it's time to wake up. Now this means the timing of the melatonin production, creating the sleep pressure, is completely disrupted and even prevented from happening. Therefore, every night we can be struggling to tip into sleep. Now, over time, whoops, sleep deprived, and whoops, stress response. Oh, now who would have guessed it could be that simple? And it goes on. Poor sleep fires up and sensitizes the emotional library part of our brain called the amygdala. Now, remember the amygdala? And it keeps a record of all the highly emotional and dangerous experiences throughout our life. Now, those normally calm people over time begin to show signs of irrational agitation and emotional outbursts. So why is it firing up? Well, at the same time poor sleep fires up the emotional amygdala, it shuts down the common sense, logical, control center part of our brain called the frontal brain cortex. Big word. Just remember what it does. The frontal brain cortex would normally control the amygdala, but without its influence, the amygdala runs wild, coming up with any and every combination of what it believes the sense of threat might be, that the reptilian brain is responding to. Many of such combinations are pure fantasy, and yet our body and stressed brain still has to respond the only way it knows how. And that always means stress hormones, sensitized nervous system, inflammation, and the results of the complete stress response. Because that's how us humans and our human body is programmed. Now, because a lack of sleep always triggers our stress response, it will always happen at night to some degree, because that's when we should be asleep, turned off. But our brain is now wide awake and revving, considering the most stupid, dangerous things that so often don't even exist, because there is nothing going on around us to divert our attention. And it could have started from a silly dream, or because too many blankets have made you too hot. But the amygdala makes a big deal out of it, because that's its job. Remember, to immediately get our attention, to get us out of harm's way. And to do that means our stress response must crank up every time, even when so often it turns out to be wrong. Now, an ongoing stress response creates an elevated long-term cortisol level inside our body. Cortisol, which over time creates a different pH and chemical balance. This change in the balance of chemicals alters the environment to the disadvantage of our beneficial bacteria living in our gut, in favour of the non-beneficial and downright dangerous bacteria which begin to thrive in that environment, and their toxins further alter the balance in their favour. Now, we'll cover this in more detail later, but to those who never knew, surprise, surprise, we have about 1 to 2 kilograms of bacteria living in our gut, and those good bacteria are critical for our existence. Yeah, bacteria are one of the reasons why we exist. Now, this change in the balance of chemicals along with the pH of the body not only creates an ongoing stress response, that also negatively alters the environment for the genes inside our body to effectively send the instructions for our body cells to perfectly replicate themselves. Now, add to this what we've learned about the non-rapid eye movement stage of sleep, where our immune system nightly searches out and destroys those diseases and genetic defects. Well, when sleep is not happening, this process is not happening, because we are not sleeping well, and that can leave us open to a multitude of illnesses. Now, any one or all of these negative changes we've mentioned will always trigger our reptilian brain every time, which always triggers our stress response, along with the stressful thoughts, feelings, and emotions that we can experience. And it could all be coming from a lack of sleep. Cool. And the long-term lack of sleep affects every organ in our body because they are all tied into our natural body clock and circadian rhythm, and again is an underlying cause of many diseases and illnesses. But the exact opposite also applies. That means by reducing our stress levels and improving the quality of our lifestyle is automatically moving us into a direction that is improving our sleep. It does it automatically. That's good to know. Which means we can solve a basket load of our own health issues all at the same time. Why? Because as we discussed in a previous video, the natural, important, regular healing, repairing process that is meant to happen every night when we are sound asleep is able to do its crucial job. So, in conclusion, poor sleep is considered by our ancient stress response to be a direct threat to our survival and ramps up every time. And that can impact directly on the other three foundation stones for good health, including our nervous system. Now, consequently, if you've noticed you are having problems with any of your foundation stones for good health, then they all must be addressed at the same time in order to get, in this case, the sleep issue sorted. Not to forget removing the primary stress effects that is creating the underlying problem in the first place. For me, it's very comforting to know that the science is there for all of us, and people do remedy their sleep issues, which remedies many other health issues at the same time. Food for thought, I hope. Now, if you have any family or friends who may be interested in this subject, then pass on to them what you have learned and refer them to our videos. Now, I suggest for anyone arriving on this site to go back to the first video and make your way through, joining the dots as you go, one video at a time, and learn all about our ancient stress response. As the science clearly shows, it is the underlying cause of 95% of all human health issues, and then you become your own expert advisor. Okay, nice job everyone. I think we did really well. We'll catch you next time. Bye bye.